This is what, week 10?
10, yeah.
Week 10, members only question and answer. And we'll just jump in. Evan Dixon, Radio Made Easy. That's smart that you added that to Evan Dixon. Do you have any technology related challenges on the compound or with your business I can help solve? The answer is, I don't know what I don't know. I am sure that the answer is yes. And that would probably require you telling me what I need, which seems to be what you're really good at, right? With this radio shit, it really seems to be working because everybody knows they need radio shit, but they don't know what they need, and it's paralysis through analysis, and there's just no commitment to it, right? And you have provided a turnkey package. So I know that that's your jam, and I know that you're really good at it, and more importantly, I trust you. So the answer is yes, and I don't know what it is.
If anybody's listening to this and isn't sure about Evan Dixon's radios, he came up to me the other day, knew how far away I was from my wife at any given time, and knew what I needed in case of an emergency. He was like, this is what you're going to need. You guys are this many miles away, and it's far, so, just in case. Like, we've barely talked before, but he's that professional. He knew exactly what I needed.
Right. Plus, I mean, he's been a customer, he's been a client for a long time. But Jody co-signed him early on, right? Jody bought his house, and if Jody says he's good to go, that's. So I mean, as high as I rate him in my life, he's even got that extra bonus on top of it. Brian Frazier, how many Diet Pepsi / soda cans are you still leaking outside Old Bunker podcast door? Last minute Scully teaser ? Well, I have an answer for you. And the answer is, should I give them more?
Do whatever you want.
The answer is every Scully to come up compound. News for you. In at least over 3 years. And you don't ever know that this slime on the concrete we have a commercial flooring in this building. So, Ryan Ray, have you ever had a brain sandwich? Every year, we have a weekly festival the first week of October, and a big tradition is the pork brain sandwich. People line up for blocks waiting to get one. That just sounds to me like prions just waiting to fucking happen. If you don't know what prions are, look up prions. My big question is, and I'll answer your question after this, my big question is, if you feed your enemies or looters, if we feed looters to pigs, is it then safe to consume the pigs, or do we have to worry about prions? If you don't know what that is, it's mad cow disease. And humans can get prions from eating. That's a lot of, I think that has to do with what kuru actually is in cannibals, when you see cannibalism. No, I have not. I have tried squirrel brains. Maybe it was pork brains. I think I tried brains and eggs at Down Home Country. And to me, it tasted just like Spam, but the texture is weird. I had never had it again. Would I do it? I wouldn't go to a restaurant and order it. Like if we were using all of the animal in today's kind of shit, yeah, we'd use all of the animals. I think you're better off, and I don't know. I mean, do what you want to do. I think more valuable than eating the brain is using the brain for tanning. It is said that every animal has enough of the juice or whatever you need in the brain to tan its own hide. So like a deer has enough to brain tan and a pig has enough to brain tan. Tanned pig hides are so supple. Like you might not be aware of this, but like when you go to a leather supply warehouse, some of the nicest, softest hides are pig. Unfortunately, they're also very thin though. So the answer is no, I have not had a brain sandwich. I know you, Josh Strivers, I know you have solar generators along with regular generators. Do you have any concern with batteries in the solar generators going bad or weakening over time? I like the concept of them, but just not sure of how long-term life of them, like with regular generators, as long as they aren't left with fuel, they last a lifetime with a little upkeep. So far, I've took your idea of multiple small gas units that are linkable if I need power. Also, any plans making Woodland Multicam day pack? Absolutely, because the Woodland Multicam Black, that's what he said, was Woodland Multicam Black. I like that stuff, man. I think it just looks awesome. And you can go Multicam Black Woodland or Woodland Multi. Come on in.
Oh, I thought that was the wind.
It is.
I was trying to let you.
She's just like the wind. She's everywhere.
She's like the wind.
She's just like the wind. So, solar battery. Here's how I look at the solar battery, right? Let me just say this. Take your Honda EU 2000 with your gasoline and just put it in your wife's car. Don't tell her it's in the back seat. Drive around with that motherfucker and see how that's going to go. Like, she's going to know it's there.
I've had a concern about that.
The gasoline thing.
Yeah, so this year, but it was still winter time, I was driving here and a tree fell in front of us. And the first thing was I should carry a chainsaw.
That was where I was going with this. The chainsaw. Like, that's why we're carrying battery-powered chainsaws, right? Mm-hmm. Gas-powered, awesome. How much shit am I really going to have to cut? And the whole thing with that solar generator and those battery packs that the solar generator charges, I have 3. My stack literally sits as tall as her. And I can take each of these packs and put them in 3 trucks and have weeks worth of charging. Like, I'm not going to run coffee pots off of them. You can run refrigerators and coffee pots off of them, but to charge devices and stuff, there's just no off gassing. There's no worrying about it. Now, if they use good battery cells, then you're good to go. And when you actually look at these things, it tends to be 18650s or C-size batteries that are in most of your battery packs. And the technology now is just so good. When you look at shitty battery packs, we were having this conversation with Justin. He's like, man, go over to India or go over to China and look at the battery bicycle, the electric bicycle junkyards, as far as the eye can see. Like thousands and thousands and thousands, millions of these bikes in miles and miles of just dead, unused stuff, because it's trash. Because they're trash. Mm-hmm. The good battery technology though gets better and better and better. And there is upkeep to them, right? Different people will tell you different things, different types of batteries. Like if you're storing, I think Cody said lithium, and I think Ranger Dave said too, if we're going to store these long term and not really use them, depreciate them to 50%, and that's like where they like to live. And then there's also ways to recondition them. I understand your concern 100%. We did not buy those until we had gasoline, right? I have 2 Honda EU 1000s, which when we were without power at Cedar Lakes for 10 days, and we went 4 hours on fridge, 4 hours on freezer, back and forth. At the same time, powered the entire living room, which is a big screen TV, DVD player, and Bose surround sound system. And then in the evening, we would power down, we would unplug and run 2 window AC units. And then that was only for maybe 5-6 hours. And then we'd go back to fridge freezer, off of a 1000. We have 2 1000s now. We have 2 2000s, all Honda EU 2000 Whisper lights. And then we have the 7000 or 7500. Now, imagine my surprise when when we blew a power outlet and I couldn't plug my fridge, it's a commercial freezer, into the system. It won't run it because it's a dual compressor commercial freezer. You can totally run, I believe Scott Hassan, am I fucking his name up?
I think it's Hassan.
It's Hassan now. Scott has I believe he said Blue Eddy, and he told me he ran a refrigerator for, I think he said 10 days. And it sounded like bullshit. And I asked him about it, and he's like, because we have a super high efficient non-Freon freezer. Now, you can run a fridge freezer off of these things for a couple of days, depending on your bank of batteries that's tied to the system. Where I like it is that if I run out of gas, or if my gas goes bad, or if some asshole kid shoots my tank with a pellet rifle and my gas is all leaked out, any number of things could happen. A tree knocks it over somehow, tornado picks it up. I have a lot bigger problems at that point with a tornado, but I like that I can charge these off of solar. And it was a big, even now, it was a pretty big commitment to me to buy the system that we have. It was $6,500, and that's the Blue Eddy. I had intended to buy EcoFlow. There was another company I was going to buy, the one Marfugel promotes. And look at the damage in that just from those sitting there. The insulation. Mm-hmm. The Marfugel one, but it was like 90 days to get it. I know you guys are like, John, have you not heard of your company? I know it takes a long time to get our shit too. I'm surprised you guys do business with me because I wouldn't. But I started looking immediately, and I really feel like I trust the things that Hobotech says. You'll know you've got the right dude because he's in a white lab coat and he always wears silly ass gloves. But what he does is he takes all these solar generators in his Chester molester van and goes out in the desert and bakes pizzas with toaster ovens and runs refrigerators and heaters and coffee pots. Anything that produces heat with electricity takes massive amounts of electricity. That's why I have her, because she's so hot and I don't have to use electricity. I can get through any of the coldest winters. She's a little small to slice in half and crawl inside like a tauntaun, but she does create a lot of warmth. So I have gas, right? I think if I could only do one, I would say gas for sure. And then there's a lot more to it also. You need to know that when you buy a generator, a lot of times, there's a difference between buying a Honda generator off eBay and buying a Honda generator from a dealer. The dealer is going to have put the oil in it. It's going to have test ran it. There's going to be some prep and setup to it, which really isn't anything until you need that thing and you open it up and imagine your surprise that the generator has no oil in it and also didn't come with any oil. You would think that would be included. We bought some clones. I also have some 2000s and I think some 1000s kind of Honda generator clones that had come from Costco. And those had no fuel. They had no oil in them. Of course, they have no gas, but they did have no oil included in the box, whereas a lot of times a box of something comes with oil. So you need to test run those things, and you need to actually run them so that it lubricates and moves the system all around. Just like a watch, right? You need to move it. It needs to self-lubricate. Those 17 jeweled watches, those are self-lubricating crystals, right? You need to actually move them. That's why we have winders for watches. I do more damage to my vehicles by them sitting unused than by actually using them. So you need to cycle that. Have some kind of PM schedule where you pull out all your small motor shit on one day or weekend and you just start everything. And on a generator, and Tim the Toolman, Tim Cook the Toolman, what the fuck is, I always want to call him Tim the Toolman Taylor. I got that.
It's Tim the Toolman Cook.
Tim the Toolman Cook is really good at this. You should follow his channel. But I believe the way you should do this is at least every 90 days, put a little bit, don't put a lot of gas in these, put a little gas in them, power them up, and actually plug some shit in so they rev up and rev down and they actually cycle. And only put a little gas because I want you to don't turn the generator off when you're done with it. Run it out of fuel so the system is out and dry, unless you have a cutoff valve on them, which most of them do not. So just be aware of that. Do that.
I've got two questions about that.
Yes.
Number one, you said that you suggest a gas generator before the electric one. if noise was a concern, would you still go gas? Like if like living in a neighborhood?
Okay, so the reason we have Honda Whisper Lights is because they have an eco mode on them. My neighbor next door had a Generac system that was probably natural gas. I think it was natural gas or diesel. I knew my power was out because I heard that motherfucker. Like before we even questioned, oh, the power's out, I knew that it wasn't my breaker or some shit happened. I knew the power was out because I heard his shit. And we lived 2 acres away probably. Yeah. Like we lived in these estates.
Yeah.
So the Whisper Light Honda is still pretty quiet. It's very efficient on fuel. And then there's an eco mode, and it just it powers down, and it just sips gas through the night. But you run silent, run deep, charge batteries and shit.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that's what was your other question?
It's for the fuel, because you want to run it dry so the fuel doesn't sit in there and
that's
rot
right.
everything out. Is it better to have a higher octane or something like that?
Yes, yeah, probably. And the reason it's better to have a higher octane right now is because higher octane fuel, and I am told this, I do not know this factually, check for yourself, but people I trust have recently told me higher octane fuel has less ethanol. The ethanol is what's damaging shit. And this is if you cannot get non-ethanol fuel. If you can get non-ethanol fuel, get non-ethanol fuel. Now, Pride G is going to help that, and things like that are definitely going to help that fuel stay preserved, and it's also going to help preserve the system longer. We need to really get Pride G on a video. Those guys have been awesome. They've communicated every time I've tagged them. They're like, hey, do you want to be a dealer? The military uses their product. We really need to get like the fucking duty experts on this online and ask them the questions.
Okay, we should.
Yeah, we should. Ooh, how do you turn this off? Like that, I suppose. Man, we just did panic prep and my voice is out. I've lost my voices. The voices in your head. So, that might be a problem. Where are my generators? Okay, so there's my brand new 2000 generator covered in mud. Nice, right there. There's one of the clones I was talking about. I've got a 1000, which I'm not sure where that is. Here's my 7500 right there. I'm not clear where I have 4 generators that are not currently here in this room where I thought they were. I suppose I should figure out where those are. This really throws me off. Here, you come over here. It's like bed. That's your side over there, and this is my side here.
We can't share blankets in bed because I always end up without a blanket.
I really think that we would probably both be better off sleep-wise if we slept in separate beds. I am really of the belief that I should take one of the very back closets, and I say this because that's the last on the trunk line for the heat and air system. So that's where it terminates, has the most amount of pressure. If I close the other vents down a little, I can get it to like 50 degrees, and then it's pitch black. There's nothing in there, literally just big enough for a mattress in the closet. Sleep there with nothing, and then run on an alarm. Because right now, I wake up a dozen times a night to see if it's time to get up. And I think that if I just had an alarm, I would not wake up until the alarm, and I think I would sleep deeper in there.
So we were talking about Adam Carolla before. He kind of has out of the box inventions like his Recyclarolla, where you put a can in your house and it takes that out to the recycle bin. He also invented a napping room. So it's completely dark. It can get as cold as you need it to be. It's just enough room for a bed, and he runs off of a timer, not an alarm. So like if you go to bed at midnight, you want to be up at 4, just set it for 4 hours.
Right.
So it's a little, I don't know why he does that, but it seems simpler, you know?
Because I feel like we have cycles, and a lot of times, like if I'll go to bed at say 11:30, right, and actually be asleep at 11:30, but I'll wake up wide awake at 2:30.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's too early to get up, so I'm gonna wait till 4. But I really, when I do actually get up, the first time I wake up,
Yeah.
I have way more energy through the day than if I'd have got more sleep because I'm not in that right cycle.
Yeah, when you go back to bed, snooze, whatever it is, when you wake up the next time, it doesn't feel
Yeah,
as good.
correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's real.
I think so too.
And I think that there's huge benefits to sleeping in like an oxygen tent or like a hyperbaric chamber. They have portable hyperbaric chambers, and you just pump them full of oxygen. I think there's a lot of health benefits to that as well. I mean, like Michael Jackson did that. Like tons of athletes do that stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree with all that stuff.
I mean, that's why Michael Jackson turned white, right? Chicken Hawk Farmstead. Thoughts on debt? Pay off a mortgage faster or invest money homestead farm business? If you were to get $20,000 lump sum you're not expecting, mortgage rate is 2.65. So my answer is, do you believe in you, right? Can you actually do this? Are you going to just blow the 20,000, or do you have a history track record of performing and making shit happen? If you had 20,000, can you turn that into 30,000 in, let's say, 90 days? And if the answer is yes, that is what I would do. If you have a track record and history of not really performing, I would put it on the mortgage. What's your answer?
So my answer is, at that rate, don't pay it off. But it's really, there is no right answer. And I was curious what you were going to say because I knew it was going to be different.
But I feel like you're way smarter with money.
Well,
like I feel like I should probably be like, tell me what to do with 10% of this money.
Well, so the idea with the mortgage is he's paying, what, 2.5%, something like that?
Which doesn't fucking... Well, he's tied in, I guess. That's his rate.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. If it's
that sounds awesome in today's
if
numbers.
it's just a regular 30-year non-adjustable mortgage, and it has to be, because if it was adjustable, he'd be paying 10% now. Can you take the money that you were going to spend on paying off your mortgage and have it earn you more than 2.5%? So we were talking about this the other day, where you can make 13 payments a year on your mortgage, and it cuts it down to a little under 20 years instead of 30. Well, let's just say that your mortgage payment was $1,000. So can you take that $1,000 and make $1,250 with it? If you can, then you're doing better keeping that cash than paying off that mortgage.
And when Austin says, he means like playing the stock market or
business, whatever you
I like taking 20 grand and we're going to buy this thing at 40% of retail and we're going to sell it and make that 60% margin. That's what I like. If I had 20
Which
grand,
is still business.
what would you want me to do?
With 20 grand?
Yeah, if somebody just walked in, they're like, here's 20 grand.
I would say we either need to buy a machine or we need to buy more inventory or something to that effect.
If we were going to pick up some inventory we currently don't have, maybe a little bit out of our realm, what do you envision that being?
I would go with medical.
Medical, yeah, medical's huge margin. If we can get medical, I'd go with sex toys.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do that too.
Bigger is better.
Easier.
Bigger is better?
Not always. It depends.
That's not what you told me.
Bullshit.
He's like,
some big toys are hard to get out.
I'm 4'10". There's only so much room in my body.
Maybe they haven't gone pro yet. Andrea Snow. I like Andrea Snow.
Yes.
I had a good time. I walked out, had no clue who she was, and there's this cute little kid. I'm like, you guys brought me a baby, and it was her.
Oh, she was the one with the little baby?
There were several with little kids.
Yeah, I see. I need to follow you around next time because I never get to meet any of these.
You better fucking get faster, motherfucker. You better get like an electric bike or something. Andrea Snow. Aquaponics is next on the list for our farm. I also didn't know that she had a farm, which is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. I always wonder when they say farm, because people say farm and I'm like, I don't have a farm. But I've gotten in the habit of saying it.
I grew up thinking farm was food, farm was plant, ranch was animal.
I think that's the case.
So,
I think that's true.
Yeah, but nowadays I think it's just farm means growing stuff.
Or farmstead, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
homestead.
Mm-hmm.
I think farms have tractors, and I have tractors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a skid steer. I mean, it's a tractor.
It's a tractor.
It's a tractor.
It has tracks.
That's right. Why else why wouldn't they call it like a 4-wheel machine? It's tractor track.
It has a
Bob. Aquaponics is the next on the list for the farm. I noticed that your system was under a pergola type of roofing. Do you have to empty it over the winter? We are thinking about setting up ours in our greenhouse and am not sure if we should go forth with it or wait until spring. Ooh, there she wrote a lot. Okay, let's start with these. So, aquaponics. Tad sold me on this idea of aquaponics, and I'd been preaching it for years. I could tell you all about aquaponics, but really it wasn't quite what I thought. I didn't know what I thought I knew. So Tad, we built this system, and then it rained, and it totally changes the pH of the water when it rains. It also overflows, it washes your nutrients out, it does a lot of things. So we needed to put it over a cover over it. And then we went years and never checked the pH or did anything anyways. But we built that, and that's Fat Nuts built that all that metal and everything. And it's modular, so we can add equal size in any direction. We can bring it out, we can bring it, it's like an erector set, the way that is built. We're eventually going to take it out and around the kitchen side of that building, so it's a big giant L shape also. Now, the intentions, and it was built so that we could cover the sides and make it a greenhouse right there. What I was not prepared for was when we ordered the Solex just to put on the roof, it was about $2,400 for that clear corrugated plastic that's up top. And it took months to get it. So we never did quite finish it. Now we could put some 2x4s in there and use some plastic sheeting and Visqueen, and it would bring the temperature up definitely probably 15-20 degrees in there. But you have to look at, and like we're going to catch heat from the building, plus we're on the, it catches south and east to west, so it gets all the morning sun and then gets most of the afternoon sun. So it would definitely heat that up in there, and we could grow something through probably the coldest days of winter. What you have to ask yourself is it affordable, right? If you have to run propane to heat a greenhouse, what are you actually benefiting, and would you save a lot of money just not growing lettuce in the winter, right? Is it a calorie crop? Is there a profit there? And for me, I don't ever look at profit when we do shit. I always look at it after the fact, and it's never profitable. It's a question of, I look at everything as kind of end of the world and infrastructure, right? Could we do this? We could grow a lemon here through the winter. It'd be the most fucking expensive lemon in the world, and I don't eat lemons. Like, I just don't. I could totally do without them. So that's something to look at. What are the questions?
What's that plant you have growing in there right now? Water hyacinth. Is that what it's called? Oh, yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah, it's water hyacinth.
Okay.
Highly invasive.
Yeah, so...
the Department of Making You Sad.
The reason why I think she might be asking this is because Spearco was here talking about it, and I just happened to catch it.
Yeah.
And man, the way he
sold it.
Yeah, like it made sense. Before I was like, yeah, this is something interesting. It's a different way of doing it. But what he's talking about seems like it's almost a must.
So if you're going to use the crop, right? We don't use the crop. We have goldfish in there because I can take, $10 goldfish and sell them for $100 to yuppies in Nashville if we brand them right. Mm-hmm. And we grow them up for sure. All we need is the poop and pee from the fish. Now you could totally put bass or crappie or tilapia or something in there and have that crop of protein. Mm-hmm. Now the protein is going to fill the water. You need something to pull the nutrients out of the water, thus the plants. That's going to the fertilizer. We don't have a lot of plants in those floating rafts. It grows lettuce very, very well. We don't consume a lot of lettuce.
I don't consume any
lettuce. We started this whole aquaponics thing because Thad, while he was waiting for hemp to become legal in Tennessee, he was practicing with lettuce. And he made this 7 lettuce blend mix. And then they would take it, harvest it, and pack it with oxygen and nitrogen, I think. So we were getting this bag of just amazingly fresh greens. And Chef was taking them twice a week and doing tri-tip salads. Mm-hmm. Holy shit, best stuff in the world. So we're getting these greens. Tad's selling, Walmart selling them, Cash Savers selling them. I think Dollar General, they had all their local sourced greens that Tad was growing in his aquaponics setup. Tad's selling that system right now. If you want a turnkey system that will actually produce and put you straight into business, Tad has that system for sale right now. So he stopped doing it when the hemp shit, and it fucked us up. I'm like, you have us to the point where we literally can't go to Walmart or a market and get their salad because it's so shitty.
Yeah,
the really salads we've seen in the last 3-4 years, the bag mix salads, we buy them, bring them home, and literally throw them away. Like they're so fucking bad. They're all like, who knows how old they are at this point by the time it gets to consumer.
They're almost mush.
So we were getting salads that were literally harvested same day, next day, and that's why we started this. Those systems are great for that. So to pull, we're not really growing a lot in there, so I put water hyacinth in there, and that came from off Amazon. I believe it was Atlanta Goldfish, where I actually buy our koi from. I've bought koi, I've bought crawfish, they have bullfrog, tad, all kinds of shit. You'd be surprised what you can buy off there. But they had water hyacinth, and I bought 6 plants, and they're literally just like a clump. And it turned into that. It's huge, right? It's insane. Well, you can take that and feed it to ducks, you can feed it to chickens, you can feed it to rabbits. All of my animals, except my carnivores, eat that. Now, a lot of that is going to be water weight. If you took, 1,000 pounds of that shit and set it in a pile for a week, you might end up with 100 pounds. But they say that the nutritional content and the conversion rate is just through the roof. Now, if you give it to some animals, they won't eat it. They'll kind of pick at it, but won't eat it. But that's like your child that won't eat. My child only eats chicken nuggets. That's because that little motherfucker ain't never been hungry. You stop feeding your ducks, corn and pellets for a couple days, they'll eat that shit. And the rabbits love it.
That's what Spirko was talking about. Like, he said that you could give it to any animal that you'd have on your farm. Of course, the carnivores would want meat, and you'd want to give them meat if you could get it. You feed the rabbits the hyacinth and feed the rabbits to the dogs. Yeah, but he said, if that's all you had, any animal will eat it.
Which has really been the focus in the last couple of years. That's where most of the energy's gone. Mm-hmm. That's why the swales started. The fodder trees, we put all those trees in, and it looks just miserable. People probably came in this last event and they're like, what's this bullshit? Soon as we get out of fall and winter, as soon as spring hits, man, before those grasses start going, those trees are going to get a chance to run. And that's when you're really going to be amazed. You're going to be like, this was that? You're not going to be able to fathom it.
Well, even if I know it doesn't look pretty, but I like the way it looks because you can't tell what's going on, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and you could take a property and fodder tree the whole property and not see what's going on.
Yeah.
And David the Good, the survival gardener, talks about that, and you hear Billy talk about that too. We can plant things in a manner that they're really broken up and it doesn't look pretty and organized, and there's no straight row in nature. Mm-hmm. So in doing that, the eye just says, oh, I don't want to go in there. That's a mess, right? Mm-hmm. And it's also good for the bugs. If you plant all of your squash in one place, the squash vine borers and the squash beetles know totally where to go. But if you intersperse them all around and put oregano in the middle all around them, then they're not. They're going to have some here, you're going to have some here, but it's not going to be everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that's what they talk about, is not having just a row garden. Now, if you're doing it for market, you obviously have to do that because it's about physical labor. Mm-hmm. But for survival garden, to be able to plant some shit that's going to come back every single year and just kind of all over the place, you might look at that. Like they say that Native American Indians, planted tons of shit on their migratory routes when they would move with the weather, where the herds would go that they would hunt. We didn't know it because we weren't looking at it from that aspect, but it's still to this day, you can follow those migratory trails and stuff, and those trees, those nut crops and apple trees and wild fruit trees and stuff are still there to this day from that were planted there. It's just like people on ships moving across, like they let goats and rabbits go on islands. Well, it decimated the islands, but that's how those got there, so that they could stop on the way, and wild pigs too.
Yeah.
So
do you have to drain it in the winter?
Do we have to drain it in the winter? Do you have freezes? So I love this because it co-signed my bullshit, right? It gave me, I'm like, I knew what I was doing was right. Stun. sheer total utter neglect. We do not drain the system in winter. We totally could drain the system in winter. I have never drained it. I've never pulled the fish out of it. It literally freezes to solid ice cubes. And some winters, it freezes up so much that you can jam your arm all the way in on all four sides. And those fish, when it heats up, we're like, oh, we lost the fish. We'll order some fish, more fish, and we'll put them in. And when we start feeding, you'll see little fish, big fish. Those big fish are still there. The dead fish never float to the top because they're not dead. Now, we only get a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks at the most. We always break pipes. All I do is when I hear the pump going, I'm like, oh, I should probably unplug that before it catches on fire. And then when it unfreezes, we plug that pump back in, and it pressurizes and starts moving water, and then we fix the leaks. That's why there's so many joints. It is faster for me to leave the system alone through the winter and then go, hey, Cody, cut these out. Cody knows what to fix. Anybody could do it. It's just glue and pipes and fittings. But that's why there's so many fittings. And it's usually one or two places. We just saw it out, put the fittings in, and we're back up and running. And it's literally about 1 to 2 man hours of labor to fix that. So we just do it. And it's almost that we do it at this point just to prove a point. Like, we do shit all the time. People so often are like, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. The only thing that comes to mind that they were right about is don't build a dam around trees. And I thought I had them. I'm like, ha ha. It took about 1.5 years, 2 years for that to really catch up to me. And you see the mess that is out there now. We're about to we're about to literally terraform that whole front area there, where the pond is, all the way down to the driveway. We're about to do some major dirt work. But I went probably 18 months and I'm like, see, this pond is working perfect, until it wasn't. That's the one thing that comes to mind. Okay, aquaponics system we were talking about. That's the pump running the system. So it pumps water uphill. This tank overflows to this. These tanks overflow to both sides. And once that fills up, which is constant because the water level is always above, it overflows into this outlet, which fills these pipes from both sides back to the pump. So it's just, that's the only pump in the system that makes all of this run. And right now, these are floating raft system, which means these rafts just float in here. And then you use these net pots and you fill it up with whatever media you want. A lot of times I do them and don't even use any media. These are just like in cuts. These are little chives that we used for salads or whatever. And these are the little stubs that are left over. And I just set them in here and you can see that they're just growing. So you can take them at this point and just cut them off from here. You can do the same thing, cut and come again. You can do that with like celery, a lot of stuff that you would just normally throw away. A lot of times, like your lettuces that come with the little roots at the bottom or the stalk, you can pop that in there and that'll grow a whole nother head of lettuce. And then what we were talking about is water hyacinth. And these are cucamelons that are interspersed in here, all through here, vining through. And these hyacinth produce a nice purple flower, which is currently dead. And then I also had duckweed right here. This duckweed will do the same thing, and you can feed that to animals, and you can also consume the duckweed like you would spinach, but I believe duckweed has a much higher nutritional value than spinach does. And then these were lettuces that we just let go, and then this is where the fish are. Only because we netted them out of here when we cleaned the system out. We were pumping these out one at a time and turning the individual tanks off, and we never put the fish back up top. So ideally the fish are up top, and then this overflows. Any debris or food goes here and kind of settles. This is just a particle separator. So if you reach down in there, it's full of like slime and sludge.
Man, I'm talking about realest, one of the realest.